record this episode number, I believe, six, maybe six. I don't know, six. But yeah, you're right, six. This is number six. Who's keeping track? I am, but anyway. Thankfully, Sally is too. This is number six in our lecture series for building out globetrotter, which is a React Redux project, as you all know. So let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Any questions? Anything on anyone's mind? Whether it's about this particular project, something in general, could be about code, could be about life, React Redux, anything.
Just a quandary. I was working on the building forms lab, and I have it working in the browser, but two of the tests fail, and the tech coach couldn't figure out why, and I created a separate action creator, which the solution doesn't have, and I don't know. So I'm stuck. So not for spending time on here, but if there's something maybe you have 5 minutes to look at to see whether it's a bad test that doesn't fit.
Do you have time later after this meeting, Sally? And you can like send me some details. So after this meeting, maybe send me some details on Slack or something, and I'll have a peek and see what we can look at.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes with the labs and the tests, you can have the functionality that's needed, but there's some detail missing according to the text, right? The specs. It's almost impossible to perfectly match test-driven and behavior-driven development. In other words, you can build what's needed and it doesn't pass the specs, and vice versa. You can build what's not needed and still pass the specs, because the specs can only look for sort of one tiny thing at a time.
Yeah, but it seems kind of basic and whatever. So I'll send you the link to the GitHub repository and then what the test errors were.
Cool. Yeah, so we can look at that.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Any other questions? Anything else on anyone's mind today on this Tuesday afternoon or evening, wherever you are, morning? Cool. All right, so let's check out our dev log, see where in the world we are, what in the world's happening here. Let's see, on the 13th, that's the last time we met, I think, I hope. We talked about, made sure that our user was serialized down a little bit. We trimmed down what we were getting from our backend. We just updated trips index so we can get the current user's trips. We're still kind of seemingly maybe missing some related data that we might want. So today is what, if you can believe it, it's the 18th. This isn't done. So is this accurate as to like the next steps? I think we need to get the current user's trips and kind of get these things to show up, right? I thought that's where we left off. Nadia, I think, is currently our only user. Yes, and so we at least ended, I think this is where we kind of ended up. We got the titles of the trips based on these requests and loaded into Redux state, I think. That's where I feel like we left off. So my trips now as state has a couple of objects, ID, type, attributes, and this is what we have so far with locations, and only one of these trips actually has locations. Which is, well, it has, yeah, so, yeah. So this one has Anaheim, trip to Disneyland. That's an attribute, okay, the attribute of a trip. I'm just trying to remember where we left off here. Okay, attributes, name, start date, end date, and locations. Okay, that's good enough for now. And we may not even want all this information. We can take what's coming back from the database and we can be very specific about what we want to show up in this store. We can update this or change this down the road if we feel like this is too much or too little information. Cool, so let's think about kind of where we want to go from here. These are some options. One thing that I didn't write here as an option is we can think about creating resources, which could be trips, comments, whatever, any other related data, right? So kind of anything here is on the table as far as we could think about adding signing up, because we don't have that yet. Our initial layout, we're still kind of working on right now. We just have this div with trips in it, as well as this quasi nav bar with a welcome message and the ability to log in and out. When we refresh, we do stay logged in, hopefully. Yeah, we're all good there. So any ideas, any thoughts from the gallery? Like what would we like to, does anything here look particularly appealing as far as where we step next? Any thoughts?
You want to try sign up now, or?
Sure, we can do sign up. Sign up. So this would involve add a form and appropriate or corresponding, I guess, Redux actions. I think that's not a bad place to start, right? And this will be our first post request from the front end, right? Second post request, actually. Login was a post request. This will be the first time that we're actually creating something in the back end if we do sign up. Is everybody cool with going for sign up? Cool. So let's do it. So if I log out right now, I have the option to log in, but I think even better would be the option to either log in or sign up. And so this login form, the first place I would think is like, how am I going to get to where I need to be in order to sign up? So I think actually right now, if I look in my front end and I look in my source, I know that in my components, in my navbar component, I currently have this either the logout or the login form rendering, depending on whether someone's logged in. And I think it might be better to actually have to click on one of these in order to make one or the other show up. What do we think about that? There's different ways we could do this, right? It's kind of up to us. Is everybody okay with that, with thinking about it that way, where I either click a button to log in or sign up? We cool with that? So basically, on this nav, at least for now, I could have a button that says log in, and then a button, and of course we'll clean up this sign up. We'll clean this up here in a little bit. See what that looks like. Okay, that looks great. This CSS is beautiful. It brings a tear to my eyes. And really, like, I don't need this just yet. Like, this is something we're going to have to kind of remove for now. And the idea is, when I click on one of these two things, I either want to see a login form or a sign-up form. Now, this is actually kind of maybe leading us toward another one of these pieces of the puzzle that's written here. That we don't necessarily have to do it yet, but at some point, we look in the devlog, which I have open. I don't know why I'm trying to find it there. We have to think about routes, right? And if I'm thinking about clicking either login or sign up, I'd really love to see in the URL either login or sign up, right? I think that's appropriate. What do you all think? So the question is, do we want to tackle that now? Or do we want to leave the routing itself for a later date? I'm easy. So let's hear what any preferences? Thoughts? Questions? What is he talking about, this guy?
Let's do it. Let's include the routes.
Okay. So with routing, we kind of have to bring in this whole new stuff, but it's not all that much new stuff. And I think this is a good time to do it, honestly. I think incorporating routes from the start. So when it comes to routing in React, a big difference from the back end is with routing in React, you could build every single possible component first, and then draw your routes and put them, reorganize them into routes. And it's really not like that big of a deal, as opposed to like when you're building a Rails application that you're serving ERBs, you can't do that really quite so much. But I like doing, I think routing as we go makes sense. So let's incorporate some React Router stuff. We have to think about where will it make sense to have at least our sort of main controller. Where will our main routes live? That's kind of the question at hand right now. And we could think about it either sort of in app. We could think about it maybe in the main container. Like, what here is going to change? Do we always want to see navbar? Or does this entire thing need to be routed out so that we're only seeing a particular item or another? Any thoughts?
I think it makes sense to put it to make app the main parent component and include the routes in there.
I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. That feels right to me. And I think, I'm not even sure, not sure, what do we have in main container right now? Do I have anything in main container? Main container is holding my trips. I might not even need like main container. I could sort of use app as main container if I want to. So let's think about what tools do I need though before I make that decision whether to axe main container. Let's think about the tools that I need. What do I need in order to make routing work?
React router.
I need React router. Okay, and what's the name of like the sort of the, I'll say like the main component that I need to grab from React router?
You need browser router, I think.
Yes. And it's very common that you'll see the as here, as router, which is just a nice convention for, you know what, let's not have to type this whole big long word because it's, it's really long. Instead, I'm just going to call this thing router. And the other one that I need is route, at least if this is going to be kind of my controller area. And that's coming from where?
React router.
I think it's coming from React Router DOM, right? If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but let's see if we get any complaints about that. Okay, so I think that's it. Now, what do I do with this guy, router, which is really browser router in disguise? Okay, thank you, thank you. What do I do with this thing? Where does router need to go? I'm listening. I just. Where does router need to go? What's the point of router? What do I need it for?
You need to route your paths.
Yeah, and so like router is going to be, could I just do something like this? Route, whatever my first route is, and like my second and third. Can I just do this like willy-nilly?
You need to build them out, but those could be placeholders, but you have to build them out.
So where does this thing come into play? Do I need this thing at all? Can I just get rid of it?
You need browser router to wrap your route.
Yes. Yes, that's what I was getting at. Good. Okay, so let's do that. So I can choose to wrap, like if I could step back, I could wrap app in browser router. I can wrap just what I need to here in browser router. I think for now we'll just put it right here. And then I'm going to axe main container just for the time being. Maybe we'll bring it back. Maybe we won't. So how does this work? So right now I've got this router. This looks cool. And it looks like I'll just start like with 3 routes for now. How do I build out a route? Anyone help me out here?
You say path equals, and then, basically if you want to log in or sign up.
Okay. Why am I typing exact? What does that help me with?
Make sure you don't go anywhere else.
Here you go, the exact URL.
Okay. And what else do I need here?
You need to pass on the component that you're pointing to.
Cool. And right now I don't have these components, so looks like I can just do this. Whoops. Log in and log out. Cool. So I've got my login and logout components. So I'm going to point those here and there. Okay, this is looking okay. Maybe I have maybe let's grab my trips too, just for good measure. Okay, so I've got I'm about to have 3 paths here. Let's say my trips. How about my dash trips? I like that, I think. My trips. Okay, cool. So this feels pretty good, right? I've got 3 paths here. Let's see what kind of complaints I'm getting from the front end here. Okay, terrible things. You should not use route or with router outside a router. What is this terrible accusation?
You might have a typo where you have the first router on line 22.
Thank you. I'm closing it. Thank you. You're right. This was self-closing. This was self-closing. And so these three things were just sort of floating in thin air. Thank you. That's exactly it. Nice, good eye on that one, by the way. Expecting closing tag for router, and then I put the closing tag on the wrong side. Nothing I did here was right. Goodness gracious. There we go. Learn how to type JSX there, Howard. Let's see how that did. Okay, nothing terrible seems to be okay. A router may only have one child element. What's that all about? What's this thing
Do
complaining
you
about?
need to wrap navbar in a route as well?
Well, if I did, let's see if that changes what it says. Router still says a router may only have one child element. Okay. What gives? So
I mean, like wrap it in a route too, like in addition to wrapping it in router.
Do you need to wrap it in a div?
okay, so I think let's address. There's two suggestions. I think one still has to do with navbar. Did you mean to wrap navbar in a div?
I think navbar needs to be wrapped within browser router, and then maybe wrap a div around navbar and all your routes, and then close your router. I think that might be it.
Right, and so literally what this is saying, it's sort of a very literal message, although it can be confusing. A router may have only one child element. This is router, and it has 3 children. Now, what it means that it only has one child, 3 children right now instead of just one, is, and as I think Barbara was suggesting, I could do this, div, and then like close my div down here. Even though this div has other children, according to React, the same way that, in a similar way that each component needs to render one child, or an array, or a fragment, right? But like, we'll stick with one child. It's the same idea. Now this is one child, now we should be in good shape. Maybe, if I didn't break something again. Oh, if I didn't save it. So for this reason, I have a tendency, just for whatever reason, I don't know why, I sometimes, and this is either, like, I don't know if it's a great idea or a terrible idea, but I like to just kind of pull this router out of here and move it up higher. Maybe I want these in a div, maybe I don't. Whoops, did I move too much? No, I think that's okay. And so I have a couple options. I could wrap this whole thing in browser router. I could even grab browser router and move it up, right? So I could move it up into here, index.js, and put it around app. That way app will be its one and only child. Or even around all of provider if I want to. I think I can put it in either place. I suppose for this one, I'll just put it here. So I'm just going to say router, because I do have a div here, and so that should solve my problem. Giving it only one child officially in terms of elements, even though that child itself, has other children. Does that make sense, what it's saying, what I said? And I wonder how we ended up getting logged out. I think I clicked log out, didn't I? Okay.
Hey, Howard, this is Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Question.
Yeah.
You said you could wrap app with browser router.
Sure.
Could you show how to do that again?
Sure. So so instead of this being here, and I'll just do this. Copy that. Go up to index.js. Paste that, except I don't need route here. And I could just say, this is starting to look a little funky, but anyway, router, and then router, like that. And then it's kind of like over and done with it. I kind of like this because it's like moved out of the way. I don't have to think about it anywhere else. It's just kind of personal preference, I guess, for whatever reason. And I can get rid of it here entirely. I can just grab route. No more router needed here or here. And cool. And that should still work. Oops, that should still work for me too. Okay. So,
Thank you.
yep. So let's see how this thing works. I mean, now I've got these paths and whatever. Okay, this looks good. Maybe I could go to, let's see what happens if I go to login. All right, this is interesting. I've still got my nav bar, which I guess makes sense because I have that. I have this nav bar is showing me sort of one of these two buttons. It's making me wonder whether nav bar should even have login and sign up at all. Maybe we actually need something more like home that actually just has the option to either log in or sign up or welcome or something like that. For now, I'm going to leave that alone. So that looks good. Like, what if I have log in? What if I want log out? Okay, cool. And then this is weird though to have it. That shouldn't really be like a route. That's kind of weird. Because that's kind of just, I should either be showing this button or not. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to have that as a route. And let's see what happens right now if I go to my trips. My dash trips. No one's logged in, so I don't really have any trips. If I go ahead and log in with Nadia, oops. And this is, we're sort of already seeing some issues here. I notice I tried to click on login and nothing happened. So we have to fix that functionality. I go back to log in this way, I get my form, I log in as Nadia, and her password is password. Welcome from Nadia. Now if I go to /my trips, I can see my trips, right? That's good news. But like this is feeling kind of clunky and weird and something doesn't quite feel right here. I don't know if you all agree or not. And I think, first of all, log in, log out should be like a button that shows up if I'm logged in. Not really a route that we actually go to. And I think we have to rethink navbar. Right now, navbar really should be like, do I want to see my trips? Do I want to add a trip? Do I want to get rid of a trip? And even though we don't have that functionality really yet, that's really what navbar should be doing. I think anyway. So navbar is going to kind of have to get a little bit of a facelift, I think. And let's think about what it is we want to accomplish sort of in this session. If we want to get a sign up page going, and I think that's kind of our goal right now. We can clean a lot of this up a little bit later. Let's think about adding a sign up component and what it's going to take to make that happen. And then we'll kind of come back around to organizing our routes a little bit better. But one of those routes I think should be sign up. So sign up and log out. Sign up and login should be two different routes, I think, which we don't have a sign up component yet. So let's build one. Signup.js. And the nice thing about sign up is I already have login, which a lot of this is going to be kind of similar anyway. Somewhat. Okay, let's see. I need React, I need Connect. This is going to be update sign up form. So I'm writing code that I don't have yet that I think I'm going to want. Sign up like this or with camel cased? I don't think I like it camel cased. I think I like it like that. Sign up, sign. Sometimes I look at sign and I can't tell if it's sign or sing. It does say sign, right? And let's see, this is going to be sign up. I don't know whether that's going to be current user. We might put it in current user. I think that might make sense. This is going to be sign up. Okay. And this is going to be sign up. It's kind of a dangerous way to do it. I don't know if I'm really showing you a great pattern by this copy paste and overwrite. I know I'm going to want to keep track of my sign up form. I don't have that code yet. I know I'm going to want to be able to update it. I know I'm going to want some sort of an action around signing up. My handling input change is going to be very similar because this is a really sort of this handle input change is code that can handle basically updating any name and value in any form as long as my names are appropriately written. So my handle submit is going to be signing up. So I've sort of rewritten almost this entire thing. Username, password, submit, and this should be now sign up. But I don't have any code whatsoever to back it up. So let's see, sign up form, sign up. Okay, and I'm probably missing something along the way, but let's go back through and taking this sign up form, let's think about the pieces of Redux I need to make this actually work. I need an action around the sign up form itself. Right now I have one for current user, login form, my trips and users. I'm gonna need one around signing up. So I'm gonna say, let's see, new file, sign up form.js. And if I need actions around this thing, I'm gonna need a new reducer. New file called sign up form.js. Okay. And export const. Export default, sorry. This is going to be my reducer. My reducer is going to take a state, which I don't know my initial state yet, and an action. And it's going to switch, just like all my other reducers, switch on action.type. And let's see, let's at least start with the default. And I know this state is going to be an object of some sort. And the first thing I like to do when it comes to adding a state around Redux is I like to make sure I can get this thing at least to show up in the store. So my default is going to be a return state. On init, when state is undefined, it will go to the default argument of what is now an empty object. So if I grab this thing sign up form, which is my default export from this reducer file, I need to add that where?
To your super reducer.
To my super reducer, that's exactly right. To my super reducer, which lives in,
Usually
I guess I put it together in index. So it's okay too if you want to have a file that does that, right? I could pull, oh no, I don't do that in index. Where do I do that?
I think you did it in
store. I could actually take this functionality as well as combine reducer, put it into its own file called like root reducer. I have it all inside a store. I kind of don't mind it in store. I don't think it's too clunky or busy. If this thing got really huge, then I might change my mind on that. For now, while my state is like less than 10 properties, I don't mind it being right inside of here. So I'm just going to grab another reducer. In this case, I'm going to call it what I want it to be called in state, which is going to be sign up form. Sign up form, that's good enough. Sign up form. And I can just grab that as well, sign up form. And if I didn't break anything else, which I probably did, and I know that like this whole file's broken. Whoops. Wait, what happened there? Oh no, that's my actions. This is the one I wanted to move over. Sorry about that. Cool. Well, nobody knows about this file yet, so it's okay. So let's just see if at least we have a sign up form in our state. Now that I've added all that. And there it is, an empty object. That's good news. What does a user need now? Let's think about this. In order to create my initial state, I want to think about what information do I need for a user? So what's the minimum that I need for a user to sign up? And to know that, I'm going to have to double check my backend and check out my schema. So db schema. Looks like users, I personally just like to sort of copy this whole thing. And let's see, did I have any validations? I have no validations. Oh, that's not good. Validates, what do we definitely need?
Name.
Name, I think. What else? We can double check that schema. Name, username, password, and hometown ID. Password is validated because it has secure password. So name, username, right? I think is required. Do we want to require users to have a location, a hometown? Or are we okay without them having to supply that information?
Make them supply it.
They can supply it?
Well, otherwise you don't know if it's a trip or a trip, you know?
Oops.
Like if I travel to Europe, that's a trip. If I go to New Jersey,
Well, I'll have that. I'll be able to separate hometown from trips based on the way I set up my relationship. So like has many locations through trips is going to be different from hometown. The question is, do we require users to supply it, or can we have users where we don't know where they are? I'm okay either way. If you want to require it, let's require it.
I like for them to have it because then you know what I was trying to say, and I guess I didn't express it well.
Mhm.
You know, I could take a trip to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
For me, here in New York, it's not really much of a trip. But if I go to Paris, now that's a trip.
Yep.
So if I don't have my hometown, I don't know.
Well, if you don't have your hometown, you don't know, or other people don't know, or like in other words, you're going to want to know the distance kind of thing, like when we're
Or like the database doesn't know. Like
Okay.
the data is kind of
That's
not-
fair. That's fair. We can include this. No problem. Let's do it. So let's say now, a hometown is now something else we have to consider then, which is another model, which is location, right? Because hometown actually comes from the location class, and location has, whoops, we need to look at our DB. Has many residents, has many attractions. We don't really care about that. What we care about is, wow, I have like no validations. I need to get a lot more validations going on here. Let's just split down our schema and look at it. So a location has, I think it's city, state, country. Is that right? Yep, city, state, country. So we have to think about a user having, and this actually requiring hometown like presents a kind of a unique and cool, I'll say challenge, because now this form becomes a lot more complicated, which is totally fine. So initial state is definitely going to be name, empty string, password, name, username, password. And now we have hometown. And so hometown kind of needs to be one of two things. It either needs to be its own object, which has city, empty string, city, state, country. I could type here, country. Okay. Or like if we have like a list of the hometowns that someone can choose from, it could be hometown ID, right? Would that be okay too? In other words, I could either just require the user to type these three things, or I could offer a list of all the existing hometowns, the locations, in other words, to choose from. If it's on that list, great. If it's not, the user's going to have to enter it into the text. Do we like the idea of offering all the current locations, or would we rather just have them type these in and handle the entire thing on the back end? Any thoughts? What do we think?
Are you saying you would like, how would you know, or you would just give them like a list of all the cities? That seems tedious, doesn't it?
Well, so depends. Does it seem tedious from a user experience perspective, or does it seem tedious from we have to build it perspective? What do you think? Like, if you were signing up for this application, you know you're gonna have to choose a username, your name, and a password. Would you rather type in, I'm from Jefferson Township, Ohio, USA, type it in, or would you rather like scroll through a list real quick to see if it's there?
I'm from Texas, so Texas is usually at the bottom of the alphabet. I would rather type it in.
Okay. And that's fine. That is 100% fine because we can always just do all the logic for checking on the back end. So let's do it this way, and let's kind of think about, does this seem like a reasonable information then for our sign up form? Are we missing anything? We've got name, username, password, hometown, information. What do we think? Everybody okay with that?
All good.
Okay. So now my state becomes initial state. And if my initial state is more complicated than like an empty array or an empty string, I typically like to build it this way, and that way it's a little cleaner looking, at least in my opinion. So let's see if our initial state now is picking up accordingly. If I look at init and I look at my state, sign up form now has name, username, password, and hometown with city, state, country. Now I need to actually build this form. So, and again, I copied and pasted this. Again, this might not be the best thing to do, what I just showed you, but if you have a component that's very similar to another, as long as you're careful when you do that kind of thing, when I say do that kind of thing, I mean like changing over all the words, then you should be okay, hopefully. Just be careful. So we have a question which is, do we have to write .js in the files which we import? So let's go to something like store.js, and let's just kind of get rid of a couple of .js's and see what happens. If I save that. So if that's not allowed, then somebody's going to yell at us. It looks like we're still just fine. There's no way I could have got these reducers if that didn't work. So the answer is you can omit the .js. For whatever reason, I'm in the habit personally of writing it, but .js is implied. There might be a couple of other file types I think that might work, but .js certainly is good to go if you want to skip that. Yep. Good question. Cool. So I've got my sign up form, all this good stuff. Now I don't have any of these actions yet, right? So let's think about the actions I need. Because we could do this either way. We can think about building the form out from the component side first, or we can use Redux side first. I kind of prefer Redux side first. That's just a personal thing. We can go either way though. So I'd rather build this action out and then make sure that I can add it and have it within, be able to use it within this component of sign up. That's my preference. So let's do that. I'm going to split this. Actually, I'm going to put this back over here. These are my actions. And let's see. Let's think about the actions I need. So I need synchronous actions, and I need asynchronous actions. And these should really be action, these are action creators, really. I highly recommend using action creators for every single action that you use in your entire application, rather than ever building an action inline. And I recommend that for organization's sake and for debugging's sake, personally. So I need to be able to keep track of the form, and I need to be able to submit the form. So let's think about updating the form first. And this is, again, going to look pretty similar to the actions that I have for my login form, for example. So if I button up my backend, open my front end back up, and I look in my actions for my login form, this is, oh yeah, it's, okay. So we're going to do this a little differently excuse me, let's actually copy both of these. We're going to do this a little bit differently than we did in that one. We actually added, now I remember, we actually added our asynchronous action of submission. We actually added to current user, and I think that actually makes sense. So this sign-up form is just going to be controlling the sign-up form and the changes to the sign-up form itself, which means it's not going to have any async action creators. So I'm going to take the word login and replace it everywhere with sign up. And I'm going to take my capital letters login everywhere and change them with sign up. Oops. And I see this is where I kind of already maybe have this. Let's see if this is even already working. So for my inputs, which don't match what I need, by the way, or at least it's not a complete list. I have my handle input change, which should be firing update sign up form which I do have here now, which I already imported, and I already added to map dispatch to props. Is that too much for anyone? Is anyone like, I wish you wouldn't have done that because I would really like to see that piece by piece? Or is everybody kind of feeling okay with the fact that I just copied a form and just changed all the words because I knew a lot of it was going to be so similar? I hope that's okay with everybody, because otherwise, we're spending a lot more time building stuff that's very similar to what we have somewhere else. So that's why I chose to do that. And now, in fact, I know that I'm just going to duplicate this input, and instead of username, it's going to be name. Oops, don't have to shout it. There we go. So I've got name, username, password, and then I also now need like a whole set for my whatchamacallit, hometown. So I need, let's see, hometown is going to be city, state, country. Cool. I don't know why I just did it that way. That was silly. City, state, country. Okay. Sign up form data, and this is going to be dot hometown dot city dot state dot country. Okay. Let's see. Did we get everything we need? So now let's think about handling the input change. I don't know that I like this pattern here. I feel like updating this entire piece of state, like this is an object now if we look at the initial state, we split this down. This form data now has four main keys, right? 4 properties, and one of them is an object with 3 properties. And so the way that this is working now, I'm sending that entire object. These parentheses are bothering me. I'm sending that entire object, and that's not really necessary. All I need are basically the name and the value that I'm changing. And see, this could be tough because the question is, this is going to be different whether it's name, username, or password, or whether it's hometown. So maybe just to make life easier, we're going to do it this way. Let's see what happens right now. If I go in and I click on, right now, I'm not using this at all, so I should actually hook up this component. Let's add a route for it. So if we go to app.js and I add a route for sign up, which is going to be my sign up component, which I'm going to need to import. Sign up. Okay. Let's see if we broke anything there. Yep. Okay. Import sign up is not exported from actions current users.js. That's because I didn't build it yet. So we're going to put a hold on that. Okay. And there. Okay. Line 20. Oh, great. Let's just do that for now. I know that's what I'm going to use. We just didn't build it yet. We didn't build our asynchronous stuff there. So if I click on sign up, oh yeah, I can't click on it yet. We didn't really build that yet. Okay. If I go to sign up, cool. So now I've got this form, and let's at least see what happens if I type in Howard. Sign up form is what I want to look at. That's not updating yet. Okay, username, Howard, that's not updating. Password is not updating. So again, this is where be careful with trying to copy and paste things right over. So handle input change is taking the event, and I should at least be able to change these. So I am firing my update sign up form action, but it's not reflecting a change in my state. So any thoughts? Like what should I do right now to try and debug this issue? Like what's going on?
Is the map state to props working as we should expect it to?
Well, map state to props should be getting my sign up form data from state, which is this. And that's a good question, right? And I think it is. What's one thing that's missing? Like I kind of, and I think hopefully we started to build out our reducer, but what did we really miss?
New action creator for the new form.
So right now I have action creators for updating my sign up form as I type, and for resetting it once I've submitted it, which we haven't got to yet, of course. And it seems that this action is getting dispatched because I see it in Redux, but there's no corresponding change. So where would I look?
In your reducer?
Yes, in my reducer. I never put anything in the reducer other than default, which means I can never change this state. It's permanently whatever it was initially. So anytime I add like this action, so I should immediately take this thing and build the switch state and add it as, into my switch statement right away. So anytime I build an action creator, and I really should do the same thing with both of these. If I'm going to build these action creators, I need to build corresponding reducer cases, or like I might forget about them. So let's grab two more cases. So case, whatever. The first one's going to be return something. And this one's going to be update sign up form. Okay. I'm just putting a placeholder there while I duplicate this. This is going to be reset sign up form. Okay. This is going to, what is this one going to return, by the way, line 17?
Your
Initial values.
Initial state. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and that's another nice feature. If I have whatchamacallit, if I have a reducer that deals with something like a form that I know is going to frequently be reset, to have initial state here is really nice, because if Redux is already set up, my state's going to be populated. I can't just count on an initial value. If I say return state, it might already have something in it. Whereas if I have an initial state defined elsewhere, I can just refer to that. Cool. So then now I need to think about what I need to update. And this is where, so let's think about it. I need to update either one of these things, name, username, password, or hometown. So I'm going to spread on state dot what? When I update, my action should be carrying the form data. What am I returning? Am I just returning the entire thing? Is that what I want to do? Any thoughts?
No, not with the combined reducer.
Well, combined reducer just says that this particular reducer is responsible for updating that particular piece of state, which in this case is the form data around the sign-up form. So that's what this.
Maybe I'm wrong, but doesn't it tag it with something doesn't each reducer's product get its own? I don't know what to call it. Tag is what I call it.
By tag, do you mean property or key?
Key, yes.
So in JavaScript, these are objects. So objects have, in JavaScript, they're properties and values. We very often say keys and values. Either one is fine. So sign up form has 4 properties or 4 keys: name, username, password, and hometown. But these are my main, these 5 pieces of state, these 5 properties: users, current user, login form, my trips, and sign up form. These come from one of these corresponds to a reducer. Each one of these corresponds to a reducer when I'm using combined reducers. And the name of that reducer comes from when I create my store, which is here. This is where I'm naming each of them. I tried to be verbose here and say I'm naming it users, even though it's called user. The reducer is called users reducer. The rest of these names I'm naming the reducers as I import them. Because they're default exports, I can call them whatever I want when I import them. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm naming this function, which is a reducer, signup form. And the corresponding property then becomes signup form. So the question isn't so much what are we calling this, what are we calling the main key, the main property name of the signup form? That's already set based on what I did here in the store. The question is, when I update the form, how am I updating this object, right? This is the original object. And right now I'm just coming crashing through with the entire chunk of form data, which I don't like, but that's what I have set up right now. And I'm replacing the entire form. And that's why this is probably the way that currently it's going to work okay. So let's see what happens. If I now look at my state and open up my signup form, and I type in Howard, for example, now my corresponding state is updated. Username is hello. Well, I don't know, Howard123. That's updated. My password is going to be password. That's updated. Now what's going to happen when I update my city? Let's just try it. Wyndham. That didn't seem to go so well. How about city, state, New York? New York. Something is terribly, terribly wrong here. USA.
Well,
What is going
nested,
on?
So
yeah, it's nested. So everything. So this is one of those times where I copied and pasted my handle input change, but of course it's broken, right? It's not set up properly right now. So how can I fix this? Right now, this is a little bit complicated because I have a nested form, right? I have this nested information. Here's what my form initially looks like. So now how do I handle a nested form with an input change? And I need to handle it either here, or actually, well, sort of some combination of these three places. So what can I do?
How about having a spread and handle input change?
Okay, so I've got my signup form data, which I'm spreading on right now. And this, so the code that I have right here will update the top level keys for signup form data. And then whatever name this is, whether it's username, password, or hometown, will be updated and its corresponding value. Notice that I actually added city, state, and country top level to, actually not top level to Redux, but top level to the signup form, which is not what I wanted, right? Unless I want and there's a couple ways that I could handle this. I could keep signup form one level deep and say, you know what, these properties are going to be like camel cased, hometown city, hometown state, hometown country, and then handle that on the back end. But it's going to be a lot easier on the back end to handle this if it's actually a separated object like this. So I think I like the idea of keeping the object separated, even though that makes this handle input change function just a little bit more complicated. But how can we do this? Have we ever, I've got inputs that could be coming from two different levels of the same object. How can I handle that? Any thoughts?
Howard, could you split handle input change into two different methods?
I certainly could, if I wanted to. I could say, like handle user info input change, handle hometown info input change, right, into those two things. And then this one would be like exactly what we see here. And this one would be signup form data, and then hometown, sign up form data, and then name, value. And then if I give this handler, I shouldn't have, I should have, I guess. I changed the name of these, so I'm going to have to make sure that I change them correspondingly here, there, and there. And then similarly, I'll use this different handler for hometown. And now, oops, dot hometown. Oops, almost screwed that up. Unexpected something. Where is it pointing to? Oh, do you know? Does anyone know what this problem is? What did I do wrong?
I think you need an object.
Yes, that's exactly right. I'm saying that I want to spread on this, and then hometown itself is an object. If I'm going to use the spread operator to spread what's in there now, I need to wrap this in an object literal. In other words, in curly brackets. That's exactly right. Nice job, Chris. I think that was Chris.
Yeah. Do we also need to modify the connect statement?
No, I'm using the exact. So either way, I'm gathering my entire form. So right now, whether it's the cleanest thing you've ever seen or not, I'm gathering the entire form, and I'm sending it, and I'll just say it's not the cleanest thing ever. But I'm sending the entire form over to update sign-up form. So I'm replacing the entire chunk of the form data. And let's just see what happens now. So let's make sure we open this up on init, state, sign-up form, hometown. Okay, so now I've got name, username, password, city, state, country. So let's say name is Howard, Howard Devenish. Username is Howard123, I guess. Password, city is Wyndham, state is New York, country is USA. Nothing worked. Okay, so I've got a whole lot of actions there and nothing showed up. Other than like name HO, that's interesting. How did HO show up? This is interesting. All right, so I screwed something up there. So let's see what we did. Handle user info input change for name, username, and password. It's weird to me that was working before. So wait, what is going on here? What? Oh, is it just not? Oh, okay, never mind. It was working. So I was looking at the, so hang on a second. I just need to learn how to use the dev tools. Let's do that again. So if we look at state, sign up form, now I'm not looking at, I was looking at a particular action, which is why I was not seeing what I wanted to see. Let's try it again. So if I say Howard, Devenish, now we're updating, looks like username of Howard, Howard, 1, 2, 3, pass, oh, pass, there we go, word, Wyndham, New York, USA. I think I wanted to spell out New York actually. Cool. And now it's all updating appropriately. Cool. So I don't like that I'm changing the whole form, but for now I'm okay with it. So now our Redux store seems to be taking care of the form, right? I'm able to know exactly step by step, and I can watch this thing. I can play my step by step and watch it, you know, watch the beauty of this all. Watch my typos as they go forward and backward. And I can watch this thing. I can speed it up actually too, a little faster. How fast can I go? I can go 1/2, 1, or 2 times. Anyway, we don't need to watch that again. But any questions about that, what I just did? So I knew I wanted to add a piece of state to Redux, which means I needed a reducer. So I added that, and I added it to my store. I added an action creator for updating and added the corresponding case to my reducer. I also, of course, I forgot to mention that I added my initial state. And then I copied an existing form and just kind of copy and pasted over and changed the names of all the stuff because it's very similar as far as the forms go. Any questions about what I did so far? Now we need to be able to sign up.
As far as for the form, is it more of, I guess, cleaner convention to do a separate input change for nested, or
okay, so
keep it cleaner, or should I guess is it better to keep it all together?
Well, what do we think? Like, what would be the, if I didn't do this and I wanted just one handler, what's another option?
Wouldn't you just add the from line 22 to 25?
Okay, so
Like-
how would, so if I take these and I put them in here, is that what you mean? How do I know which of these is the correct one? How do I know which of these is in play? Suppose that I'm updating my state. Okay, that's a terrible word to say. Let's say country. If I'm updating my country, the name is going to be, of the input, it's going to be country, and the value is going to be USA, for example. The way this is written, I'm going to add a property to the top level now called country with a value of USA, and I'll do the same thing inside of hometown. I only want it inside of hometown, right?
Would you make new constants or new
Right.
with?
I would need a little bit of logic, right? I'd probably want to look at my name and decide, like, basically build a hometown object, build the top level object, and kind of mash them together or something based on which based on what the name is, right? If the name is city, state, or country, then I can handle that way. If the name is name, username, or password, I can handle it the other way. So
But getting to that point, it's kind of cleaner to separate it.
yeah, and I don't know. I think that's a personal preference. I'm not going to stand here and say this is the better way. Whoops, what's my last thing I changed? I don't know. Hopefully I didn't just break something. I don't know. I think this certainly does seem a little strange, right? To have the same action dispatched in two places. Maybe it would be cleaner to combine this. I don't know. That's a decision you have to make and say, you know what, I want to find a better way, a cleaner way to update this, and I don't like what I have here. For the sake of kind of moving along, I think this is totally fine. I'm happy with it. So does anyone have a few extra minutes, and we can get the sign up actually working on the back end? Like, I'd love to get that done in this session, even though we're currently at time.
Go ahead.
Will anyone stick around?
Let's do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. So then now we have to think about, where does the action of signing up need to live in terms of my tree here? What will the action update in terms of my state? Like, what will change once I've signed up?
Current user.
I think so too. I think it's a current user action. I agree with that. So let's go to sign up. Whoops, to my login actions. Because again, I can steal a lot of what I already have. If I go to my login form, let's get rid of this. And let's open up my login form actions. Oh no, sorry, my current user actions already here. So I think login and sign up are going to be rather similar, right? Very similar. Just one of them is just going to be, sign up's just going to be carrying a whole lot more information and going somewhere else. So this is going to be, okay, I can't do that. Okay, that's going to go to sign up. Still going to include my credentials. This is still going to be a post request. I still want JSON back. And I'm still going to be passing my credentials along as an object. And let's see what this does. Cool, we've got a fetch request. I like this. So first of all, I don't know if this route exists. So let's go ahead and check that out. Localhost 3001, that's my Rails server, Rails info routes. Let's check out our routes. Whoa, that's way too big. Okay, I've got login, log out, get current user, and then I've got visits, trips, comments. Way too much stuff here, by the way. This is what I got with my scaffold generator. So let's now check out, or let's add, I should say, a route for this thing. So let's go to our backend, and in our config routes, we're going to now need to add post, delete, get. Let's see, how about, this is going to be post users, post API v1 sign up, and now this is actually going to go to users create. Okay. So now we need to go dig into our users controller. and this is all boilerplate that came with scaffold, right? So I didn't build any of this. And I know now I'm also passing along, first of all, password digest should just be called password. And I now need hometown information as well. Cool. Yeah, if you got to jump, by all means, go. I know that this was only slotted to go for 1 hour. So we're requiring a user param, which Rails will provide for us, permitting name, username, password, and hometown attributes. So let's at least see if we can get there and what happens here. This is, of course, Rails. Okay, so by bug, let's see. So I'm going to enter Howard 123 with a lowercase h, password as my password, Wyndham, New York, USA, use USA, New York. Okay, and when I click sign up, let's see what happens. Check our network tab. Did anything happen? No, because I never imported this and did anything with it. Okay. So sign up, import sign up. I actually need to sign up. And I need to add that back as my handle submit. It already is. And I need to grab it from Redux. Okay. And I need to grab it here as a prop. Cool. I think that's everywhere. We'll find out. So unfortunately, how did my form get cleared? Oh, because I saved it, so it refreshed. Okay. Name is Howard 123, password, city is Wyndham, state is New York, country is USA. Let's sign up again. Okay, good, cool. Hey, something happened there. Oh, I don't know what this is. Let's see what happened. Oh my gosh, there's a payload, there's all this stuff, and we're in a by bug. This is good news. I can't believe we hit the action on the first try. That's great. Let's look at params. So I've got name, username, Howard, et cetera, et cetera. What I really want to know is what's under user. I've got name and username, permitted false. Okay. So let's just see what else we have. I've got all these top level keys, but that's not really where I want the information necessarily. But let's just see. I do have the information I need here, but I'd rather see it nested under user. So let's see what user looks like. Okay, is user valid? No. So I'm going to continue and see what kind of an error we get. It's going to be an unprocessable entry, I think. 422, which is actually the correct error. Our front end is not really going to know how to handle that, I don't think. We look at the response. Oh, we do, actually. That's great. Wow. Okay, so we already got our errors coming back. Not exactly built the way I want them, but I've got password, hometown, must exist, can't be blank, password can't be blank. And these weren't blank necessarily, but Rails thinks they are, right? And let's talk about how we can fix that. So first of all, what I want to do is else render response equals an object that says error. Have I been using error or errors? I forget. I think I've been using error. Okay, error. So then error, and then user.errors.full messages. This is just some old Rails stuff or Active Record stuff to remember. .to sentence. I still want that status. So render JSON response, status unprocessable. That's exactly right. Okay. So now I'm actually just including a top level key of error, and I'm just concatenating all the error messages together. But let's talk about why this is happening. So I'm getting these parameters, and the top level keys are coming through. And what we're seeing here is what Rails is going to try to do to help us out. It's going to provide a top level key of user, and it's only allowing name and username to come through. So what I'm going to do to fix that is when I put together my request and send it, I'm going to be a little bit more verbose about the keys that I'm sending. So the properties that I'm sending in terms of the JSON data. So let's see, const sign up, there it is. instead of just passing along the raw object, what I'm going to do is something like const, I could just call it, well, no, not credentials, user info, I guess, is going to be equal to an object with a top level property key, I should say, of user, and that's going to point to credentials. And so now this credentials should have all those top level keys under user and then a nested key of hometown. And let's see how that changes the request. So if I save that and I say Howard, Howard 123, password, Wyndham, state is New York, country is USA, and I click sign up. I should get caught in that bug again if I look at params underneath, let's see, user. I didn't do what I wanted to do, did it? Name, username, password, hometown.
I don't know if you changed the other variable back to the info in your action.
How
Your
so?
stringify credentials 54.
Thank you very much. That's exactly right. I went through all this trouble and I passed the exact same information. Thank you. Good eye. Absolutely. We're going to continue this and fire it off one more time. Let's see here. So Howard, or at least one more time. Howard 123. Password. City is Wyndham. You know, how come this doesn't ever remember exactly what I want it to, except for when I don't want it to? These autocompletes. Like, why doesn't Chrome just know what I want now? Let's try it again. So now let's look at params. And okay, so now we have user pointing to name, username, password. That's good, with a hometown as well. Okay, this is now looking a little bit better. If I look at user, okay, it's got a password digest at least. Hometown ID is nil. We'll deal with that here in a minute. Is my user valid? Why not? Well, actually, we'll just see that. We'll see, actually, if I just hit continue, because now I should be returning all the error messages. So we'll go back. Hometown must exist, and hometown can't be blank. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So this is actually representative of success right now, as far as I'm concerned anyway, as far as what we're doing. Too many things open. Where's my controller? There it is. And so the problem is that we've said, well, user must have a hometown. So even though I'm creating user.new with these params, the params really don't have everything I need, or at least Rails doesn't know what to do with this right now because I'm creating this nested data. So what I need to do is grab that hometown information. So I can say something like, let's see, actually let's one more time. This will be easier, I think, to play with in the bug. Oh, cool, now the form's that's much better. It's not cleared. So now I'm back in the bug. If I look at user params, this is my whitelisted list of params, and I say user params hometown nil. Okay. Okay, so it actually filtered out hometown. Why would it have done that? How about params hometown? Wait a minute. Params user. Oh, params, that's it. Params user, that's it. Hometown, because it is nested under user. There it is. So let's see. User params. What are we getting for user params? Just name, username, password. Didn't I add hometown to that mix? Oh, does anyone know what the problem is that I have here? It has to do with strong params. If one of these is a nested attribute, what steps do I have to take to allow that through? I actually don't remember. I don't remember the answer to my own question. I know it's something a little different. Does anyone remember off the top of their heads? I'm going to try this one time. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to grab it manually because I frankly just don't remember the syntax properly. And since we're at the end of this and cramming for time, I'm just going to make it, we'll get it going here. Oops, sign up. Yeah, okay, I didn't like that, so that wasn't the right way. There's a different syntax. I'm putting the wrong syntax here. So
I think you have to put it in an array, but I don't really remember either.
yeah, it's like hometown, and like that doesn't really make like that kind of.
I think so, yeah.
Let's just try that. Okay, internal server error. We never caught in our buy bug. Let's try it one more time. We're in our buy bug. User params does not still have a hometown, so that's okay because we can just grab it manually. I'm not too concerned about that. So let's just get rid of hometown because it's not going to help us there. And instead, what I can do is say params user hometown. There it is. And so basically I'm going to do a find or create by. So I'll say something like, I'm going to copy that so I don't have to write it again. Okay. Once we get to here, I'm going to say hometown equals location.find or create. Is it find or create or find or create by? We'll find out. I guess I could just, well, I don't want to do it there because I don't want to persist it. Now this is what we had there. Params user hometown. And then, and really what I could do is say something like at user dot locations dot, no, user has a location. User dot location. There's a couple ways we could do this. Let's just do it the more verbose way first, and then we'll change it. So let's let's just see if this works. We can run this in the bug actually. Forbidden attribute error params. Oh, so I can't do it this way. I have to be even more verbose, which is kind of annoying right now. So this is the right method. Okay, so we just have to build it out. That's okay. So this is going to be city, and then state, country. Okay, let's see, first of all, let's make sure that that actually will work. City, okay. So let's just see if this will work. Okay. Cool, looks like it worked. We have a new location there. And if I run that code again, it should return the same one, right? Because find or create by will check and see if it exists already. So that's good news. And then I think this verbosity is actually probably useful here because it could be a little bit annoying. User.location equals location. Now we're going to save the whole shebang, including the location, which has already been saved in the database, by the way, and the user all at once. And hopefully that'll work. Even if the user doesn't save, we could actually end up with a location in the database. So maybe create by wouldn't be the best bet here, but that's okay. I don't mind. All right, so let's see what happens now. So now I'm going to continue this, exit my buy bug. Nope, let's continue so we don't have an error. And hometown must be blessed, exists and can't be blank. Uh-oh, well, let's try it. Sign up. Ah, dang it, internal server error. Ooh, what's that? Location equals, oh, hometown. Oops, there we go. Let's try it again. Another internal server error. What was that one? Undefined method user URL. What? Users controller line 26. Oh, I don't need a location. Okay, so if user.save, what do I actually want to return? And here's where I have to say, what I actually want to return is not this, but is, let's see. And this is going to be very similar to my sessions controller when I log in. what I actually want to render is, ooh, I should have added status here. Status, okay. But this is basically it, just that serialized user, and that's really it. So let's just do that. User serializer.new, pass in my user with the status of created. That's perfect. Okay. Again, you can hear him chanting. I get rid of my bio bug, right? Okay, sign up. And look at that, sign up, trips, right? This all looks good. Let's see how we signed up. Welcome, Howard from Wyndham. I didn't reset my form, which the nice thing is I can go back here, and I think what I actually did, if I copied because I copied all that information over from my login form action, if we go back to our front end, and I go to those actions I created, which were there, and I look to current user, when I log in, I reset my login form. What I actually want to dispatch is my reset sign up form. And the nice thing is that this action already exists, and I just need to import it. And I already added it to the reducer as well, if I remember correctly. We can double check that. If we look in our reducers, actually we should check on our actions first for sign up form. Reset sign up form, good. Notice it doesn't need a payload of any sort because we're just resetting a form. We already know what the initial state needs to be, and that's what we're returning here. So, sing up. Thank you. Sing up. Happens often. Sing up. Sign up. There we go. Cool. Any errors? No. Let's go to. Am I able to log out right now? That's not even a route, is it? No. Okay. So let's just make sure I can log out right now. Let's just grab my log out form and show it. I have it, so let's just show the ability to log out if we need to. Okay, because I do need to, so that I can sign back up. Let's log out. Great. We should have no current user anymore. No one's logged in. That's good news. Let's keep an eye on our Redux store. Our state looks good. And now I should be able to sign up. Oops, I have to actually, so I haven't added the user interactions properly, but right now we can get to this state, and let's talk about anyone else want to live in this app for forever and eternity? Maybe not eternity, that seemed a bit heavy, but anyone else want to volunteer to be someone living in this database? Or make up a name for me, whichever. Is everyone still there?
Hey, Howard, you can put me in if you want.
Okay, so Chris, do you have a particular, no, you're Chris P, right? Aren't you already in this, actually?
Well, you could be down as name Chris and then username CP Dundon.
Okay. I feel like you're already in here, but let's find out.
I think I'm in an earlier version.
Well, there's only one version.
Oh, we'll find out.
So, well, actually, I don't think we will. I think what I need to do, actually, this is pretty important that I never did, was we really should sprinkle some validations. Let's at least make sure that we at least have a username uniqueness validator on our user. And I don't. So validates username uniqueness true. There, okay. So now we'll find out. So Chris CP Dundon, password of password, city, state, country?
Where am I? Just say Great Neck. New York.
I think you're already in here. I think we're going to get an error. Yeah, username has already been taken. Guess what? There's two of you. You must be logged in to see trips. Okay, that's pretty funny. Okay, so let's see. If we look at our state and we look at current user, it's interesting. Did anyone catch that error that we saw just a minute ago? Notice my trips is empty. Well, my trips is empty because Chris doesn't have any trips anyway. But we saw kind of this flash of alert. You must be signed in to see trips. kind of as we were signing up.
Howard, I thought it said you had to be logged in to see trips.
Yeah, that's what it said, right?
Yeah.
So why would we have gotten that kind of an alert after we signed up?
Maybe because I don't have any trips and it just threw an error.
So what did we forget? So the front end thinks that someone's logged in, but let me just kind of go to like my trips, for example. Rails does not think anyone's logged in. Why?
Oh,
What did I forget to do?
we're signed up, but we're not logged in.
That's exactly right. What did I forget to do here in my controller?
You had to log in once you sign up.
Yes, session user ID. Oops. We're just using sessions, right? Equals user.id. There we go. That's it. Just that line of code, right? And everything else we copied over. So credentials true is already, or credentials include was already included in that request because I copied it from a previous request. So I should say right here. Oops, sorry, right there, line 50. And that's already there. And so now if we were to sign up again, we would not get that error anymore because on the back end, we took care of that just now. So now I really do have to go, but that was it. So at least we're able to sign up now. Our routes are a little bit discombobulated. Like I look forward to kind of cleaning that up and we're going to need to, I think, take a step toward improving this UI would be a good next step. I think maybe I should note that in the devlog. And I'll do that, but we're going to go ahead and sign off. And any other, well, if we have any questions, we can maybe address them quickly if anyone has anything.
Howard, I'll put that stuff in Slack for you.
Okay, yeah, you can drop that and I'll have a look as soon as I can, no promises, but
No, that's fine.
as quick as I can, I will. So
No problem. All
I'm
right,
just going to write need to clean up UI and routes. I'll say basic routes. Cool. All right, and I think we're in a good place though. That we added a lot of functionality there where we can sign up now. We can adjust our database. Now let's clean this up and kind of take. I think going forward, it's really exciting because now we have the ability to sign up, log in. We have the idea of the routes, or at least we have our base set up for our controller, and now we can think about adjusting this and really turning this into something cool. Awesome. Thank you all for your participation. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking around longer than anticipated. Or maybe you did anticipate that this would go longer because you know me well. But thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Howard.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you so much.